not every stop on the road is meant for the living.
For nearly 17 years, I've been a trucker, long enough to know that most of the horror stories you hear on the road are just tall tales, spun from too little sleep and too much time alone. But what I experienced in the Mojave Desert back in 2019, well, that's a story I can't explain away. It was around 2:30 in the morning. I was hauling industrial lighting from San Bernardino to Flagstaff, with about 4 hours left on my route. The desert was an abyss of blackness. No city glow, no stars, not even a sliver of moonlight. The radio had surrendered to static an hour ago, leaving just me and the steady hum of my diesel engine. You know, there's a certain kind of emptiness out there that plays tricks on your mind. So when I saw a faint red glow up ahead, I figured it was just my imagination. At first, I thought it was a car pulled over on the shoulder. But as I got closer, I saw it was UNT. On the shoulder at all, it was stopped dead in the middle of the road. Hazard lights blinking, no other signs of life. I slowed my rig, coming to a stop about 20 feet behind it. My high beams lit up a white sedan, the kind you get at an airport rental. The rear bumper was dented, and the trunk was slightly ajar. The driver's door was hanging wide open, swaying a little in the dry desert wind. I leaned on my horn for a good few seconds. Nothing. My first instinct was to radio for help, but service is a myth in that part of the country. So, against my better judgment, I grabbed my mag light and climbed out of the cab. The air was eerily still. The only sound was the soft, rhythmic ticking of the sedan's hazard lights. I shined my flashlight inside the car, and my stomach immediately did a flip. There was a woman's purse on the passenger seat, a pair of sunglasses on the dash, and a single shoe on the floor mat. No driver, no passenger. Then I saw the back seat. A baby seat was strapped in, but it was empty. A plastic sippy cup had rolled onto the floor. My beam moved toward the half-open trunk where something was wedged, keeping it from closing. I called out, my voice sounding small in the vast darkness. "Hello? You okay out here?" The silence that answered was absolute. I hesitated, then walked to the back of the car and lifted the trunk lid. Inside were 3 large black garbage bags, sealed tight with duct tape. You haul as much cargo as I have, you can tell when a bag is full of trash. These weren't, they were heavy, dense, and disturbingly misshapen. And then the smell hit me as sour, metallic odor, like old blood mixed with motor oil. That's when I heard it. The distinct crunch of boots on gravel right behind me. I spun around, my flashlight beam cutting wildly through the dark. The road behind me was empty. Then, another crunch, closer this time, and a whisper. I swear I heard a whisper. Just one word. Leave. I froze, heart pounding in my chest. My light darted toward the desert brush beside the road, and that's when I saw him. A tall figure dressed in what looked like a white jumpsuit standing just at the edge of my headlights. It was completely still. Then, with a sudden, unnatural jerk, it started running not away, but straight toward me. I dropped the flashlight and scrambled back to my truck, slammed the door and locked it just as a heavy thud hit the back of my trailer, shaking the entire cab. I frantically turned the key in the ignition. Nothing. I tried again. Still nothing. Then the pounding started. Someone was hammering their fists against my driver's side door, over and over. I caught a glimpse of a face in the window-pale skin, smeared with something dark, eyes wide and frantic like a cornered animal. He was shouting something, but the words were a muffled, frantic mess through the thick glass. On the 3rd try, my engine finally roared to life. I didn't hesitate. I slammed the truck into gear and floored it. For the next mile, my mirrors were filled with the image of those flashing red hazard lights, growing smaller and smaller until they were finally swallowed by the darkness. I didn't stop again until I crossed into Arizona and found a busy rest area. Surrounded by the comforting presence of other trucks, I just sat there, shaking, until the sun came up, trying to convince myself it was all just a hallucination brought on by exhaustion. 2 days later, my curiosity got the best of me. I searched the local news for that stretch of highway. There it was. A report about a car found abandoned in almost the exact spot I'd been. Police said they found a purse, a baby seat, and signs of violence inside. But there were no suspects, and no bodies. Just ... gone. I've never heard another word about it. But now, every time my route takes me through that part of the Mojave at night, I swear I can see them. Faint red hazards blinking in the distance, waiting for the next person to stop. Thanks for listening to my story. If you have any of your own you'd like to share, drop them in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content. Stay safe out there. When I was 24, I got my CDL and hit the road. Fast forward a few years, and I'd driven through just about every state you can think of: endless highways, winding back roads, treacherous mountain passes. I've seen it all. But there's one particular stretch of pavement in Ohio that I will never, ever drive on again. Not after what happened. This was about 3 years ago. I was on a midnight run, hauling a load from New Jersey straight through to Chicago. It was supposed to be a standard 11-hour trip, nothing out of the ordinary. But somewhere around the halfway point, deep into the night, my eyelids started feeling like lead weights. I'd been behind the wheel since noon, and the last of the caffeine had burned off hours ago. I was fighting sleep, hard. Just as I was about to give in and pull over on the shoulder, I saw it. A small beat-up road sign reflecting in my headlights. Service station, 2 miles. Perfect, I thought. I'll pull in, grab an energy drink, maybe splash some water on my face. That simple decision still haunts my nights. 2 miles down the road, the faint outline of gas pumps appeared through the darkness. The whole place looked off. The lights were dim, flickering erratically like they were barely hanging on to life. It didn't look like any modern gas station. It was a relic, something straight out of the 1970s. I pulled my semi over to the side, but I kept the engine running. Something told me to. The station had a single, cracked sign that was supposed to say "Quick Fuel Stop," but the Q had fallen off long ago, leaving a ghostly _UICK fuel stop. The windows were pitch black, like hollow eyes. But as I walked closer, I saw a faint, weak glow coming from inside, like a single candle was burning, and the front door was slightly ajar. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, immediately turning on my phone's flashlight. The smell was the first thing that hit me. It was a thick, heavy mix of mold, dust, and something sickly sweet, like rotting fruit. The shelves were mostly empty, with a few toppled over. Rusted cans of food were scattered on the filthy floor. The cash register was completely gone, but in the back, behind a counter draped in cobwebs, I saw where the light was coming from. It was spilling out from behind a grimy curtain that looked like it had been moved recently. I hesitated for a second, my gut screaming at me to leave. But I pushed the feeling down and called out, "Hello? Anybody here? You guys open? Silence? Complete and total silence?" I took one step closer, my boots crunching on debris, and that's when I heard it. A soft shuffle. The sound of someone moving just behind that curtain. The faint light flickered once, then dimmed even further. A cold dread started creeping up my spine. I began backing toward the door, telling myself this was a bad idea, but my stupid curiosity won. I had to know what was back there. I reached out and yanked the curtain aside. Behind it was a small, dusty storage room. It was completely empty, except for one thing: a single white refrigerator, plugged into the wall and humming quietly. It was the only thing in the entire building that looked new. It was spotless, gleaming under my flashlight. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Side perfectly arranged were 6 plastic bottles of water. They were all unlabeled, just clear bottles with white caps. I reached in and grabbed one. It was cold, unnaturally cold. It was so frosty, it almost hurt to touch. My eyes scanned the bottle, and I saw a date printed on the cap. My blood ran cold. The date was from 2004. At that exact moment, my phone screen blinked. The flashlight app flickered, and then the light died, plunging me into absolute darkness. I was frozen. All I could hear was the steady hum of that impossible fridge behind me, and then faint footsteps, somewhere inside the store with me. Slow, deliberate. Getting closer. I fumbled in my pocket for my keys, their familiar weight, a small comfort. I whispered to myself, over and over, "Don't run. Don't panic. Just walk out." I took one careful step toward where I thought the exit was, and then a voice whispered right next to my ear. It was raspy, low, and full of gravel. "You thirsty?" I bolted. I don't remember running across the parking lot. I don't remember fumbling with the handle. The next thing I knew, I was slamming the truck door shut, throwing it into gear, and peeling out of there with tires screaming. As I sped away, I glanced in my side view mirror. I swear I saw the curtain in the doorway move again. And for a split second, I saw a figure standing there. It was too tall, its head tilted at a sickening, unnatural angle, just watching me leave. I drove like a madman for what felt like an eternity, probably 15 minutes, until I saw the bright, welcoming lights of another gas station. A modern one, full of life, with cars and people. I slammed on the brakes, ran inside, and found the clerk. Trying to catch my breath, I asked him about the old service station down the road. The _UICK fuel stop. He just frowned at me, confused. Man, what are you talking about? That old place burned to the ground back in 2007. There's nothing there but rubble. Couldn't have seen it. My heart stopped. I told him everything. I told him I was just there, described the humming fridge, the frosty water bottles, all of it. He stared at me and all the color drained from his face. He leaned in and said in a low, quiet voice, "Listen, they found a body in one of those old coolers after the fire. A trucker. He disappeared that same year. Never figured out what happened to him." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, speechless. I left the energy drink I'd meant to buy on the counter, walked back to my truck, and drove straight through to Chicago without making a single other stop. Now, whenever I'm on a long haul and my eyes start to get heavy, I fight through it. I'll blast the radio, roll down the windows, whatever it takes, because I know better than to ever again pull over for a stop that shouldn't exist. Thanks for listening to my story. If you have one of your own, I'd love to hear it in the comments. And if you want to hear more strange tales from the road, be sure to subscribe. Stay safe out there. My name's Kevin, and for most of my adult life, I've been an independent trucker. See a lot of strange stuff out on the open road, bizarre wrecks, animals where they shouldn't be, even a few desperate folks trying to flag you down in the middle of nowhere. But the night I'm about to tell you about, that one nearly made me quit the job for good. This all went down about 4 winters ago, somewhere deep in northern Montana. If you've ever driven through that part of the country, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those forest roads feel like they stretch on forever, just pitch black, icy, and dead silent for miles and miles on end. I was hauling a load of freight to a small warehouse out in Kalispell. My GPS was telling me I had about 2 more hours to go. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, a light snow was starting to fall, and I'd been awake for nearly 20 hours straight. I was just on the verge of pulling over to get some rest when I saw something weird on the side of the road. It was a pile of clothes. At first, I just figured they'd blown out of the back of someone's car. But as I passed, I noticed something else. Another pile, maybe 50 feet ahead, then another one after that. Each pile had a few shirts, some jeans, and what looked like small jackets. It was like someone had left a trail of discarded clothing leading straight into the forest. I slowed the rig down, feeling this deep unease creep over me. That's when I saw it. Small pink child's jacket lying right there in the snow. My heart just sank. I pulled over to the shoulder, hit my hazard lights, and climbed out of the cab. The cold hit me like a physical wall. I could see my breath fogging up in the frigid air. The snow around the little jacket was disturbed. There were small footprints leading away from it toward the tree line. They were tiny, like a kid's. I cupped my hands around my mouth and yelled out, "Hey, is anyone out there?" Nothing. Just the whistle of the wind through the pines. Then, very faintly, I heard it. A child's cry. It sounded like it was maybe 100 yards into the trees. I froze, listening. The cry came again, a little louder this time, high-pitched and panicked. I couldn't just get back in my truck and leave. I couldn't ignore that, so I grabbed my heavy-duty flashlight and I started walking toward the sound, calling out, "Hey, it's okay, I'm here. Just stay where you are." The forest just swallowed my voice whole. The light from my truck faded behind me until I was surrounded by darkness. The crying continued, but it kept moving, always just out of my sight. After maybe 2 minutes of pushing through the trees, I realized something was very, very wrong. The cries were looping. It was the same tone, the same rhythm, the same little gasp for air at the end, like a recording playing over and over. And then the sound just cut off completely. Silence. I stopped, turning in a slow, panicked circle. The woods were pitch black now. The only sound was the crunching of the snow under my boots. I swept my flashlight beam through the darkness, and the light hit something about 20 feet ahead of me. It was a small battery-powered speaker, half buried in the snow. And lying right next to it was a stuffed toy animal, frozen, completely stiff. I crouched down to get a closer look. my mind racing, and that's when I heard it. A branch snapped loudly right behind me. I whipped around, shining my light back the way I came. And there, standing between the trees, were three shapes. Tall, unmoving, they weren't kids. They were adults. Dressed in dark winter coats, their faces covered with ski masks. One of them was holding something a length of chain or maybe wire that glinted in my flashlight beam. Then the other two started moving toward me, slow, deliberate steps through the snow. I scrambled backwards, nearly tripping over my own feet, my breath coming in sharp, ragged bursts. And then, from somewhere behind me, another voice called out. This one was a whisper. Over here, I spun around, my light shaking violently. Another figure was standing just beyond the tree line closer to my truck. I didn't think. I just ran. Branches whipped at my face as I sprinted, snow crunching under every desperate step. I broke through the trees and saw my truck, maybe 30 yards ahead. The cab lights were still on, the engine still humming. I was about halfway there when I heard them heavy footsteps pounding through the snow right behind me. I didn't dare look back. I launched myself into the cab, slammed the door, and fumbled for the lock. As I jammed the key into the ignition, I saw movement in my side mirrors the figures emerging from the tree line. One of them was holding up that same stuffed toy I'd seen in the snow. I floored it as a semi roared to life, kicking up a massive cloud of snow behind me. I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down until I hit a major intersection 20 miles down the road. When my hands finally stopped shaking enough to hold my phone, I called the highway patrol and told them everything that happened. They sent a car out to check that stretch of road the next day. They found nothing. No piles of clothes, no footprints in the snow, no speaker, no stuffed animal. It was like it had never even happened. But a few weeks later, one of the local officers gave me a call back. He told me that years ago, that part of the forest had been used by human traffickers. They would lure travelers off the road with recorded sounds, a crying child, a woman calling for help, anything to make a decent person stop. He said they'd been inactive for almost a decade, or so everyone thought. Now, whenever I drive through those lonely stretches at night, I ignore anything I hear outside my cab. Voices, screams, cries for help. I just keep driving, because the terrifying truth is, not every sound you hear in the dark is someone who needs saving. Sometimes it's just someone waiting for you to come a little closer. Thanks for listening to my story. If you have a true story of your own you'd like to share, let me know in the comments. If you want to hear more strange tales from the road, make sure to like and subscribe. Stay safe out there.